Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I am your host, Mr. Kadish, and we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff today, including a lot of Marvel stuff, some Star Trek stuff, and some stuff probably none of you are going to care about. And speaking of stuff nobody cares about, let me introduce my fantastic panel of nerds, starting with the man, the myth, the legend, Dutch Butters. How you doing, Dutch?
I'm good, buddy. You notice you didn't say any Star War. No Star War today. So I noticed that's not on the list. So thank God, no Star War. Yeah, I'm happy. You Star Warred me out, bro. You killed me. I'm done.
Well, you can thank Disney for that.
Yes.
But now I'm going to make you all sick of Marvel. That's my next goal, Mr. Butters. And now we have Mr. Brian. He's here. He's queer. He's our shield against all things intersectional. How you doing today, Mr. Popcast?
I'm alive and well, thank you, sir.
Brian,
are you ready to...
My keyboard's ready for you, buddy.
Oh yeah, that's the Brian edition.
Yeah.
Are you ready to talk about some Star Trek today, Brian?
Oh yes.
I can tell how excited you are.
Oh boy.
I'm thrilled.
And allow me to introduce two men who have the highest pain tolerance I think I've ever seen on YouTube. Lamar and Joe from the Perfect Turd Podcast. How you doing, gentlemen?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing great. Yeah.
Doing good. Now, these guys have been on our show before, but for those of you new to the show, Lamar and Joe run a YouTube channel called the Perfect Turd Podcast, and they watch bad movies, and then they talk about them. And we're not just talking about bad movies. We're talking about real turds of movies, right? So link to their channel in the description, and the link is also pinned to the chat. So if you guys haven't checked out their channel, be sure to do so, and also subscribe over there because they make talking about bad movies fun, don't you guys?
Yes,
we try.
we do it, Joe. We do it. We
do.
Yes.
All right. So Odin's going to be joining us shortly. He's got people working on his air conditioning system at his home, so he's a little bit distracted. And Tom Connors Jr. is MIA as usual. He's probably eating cereal somewhere, but unfortunately, he won't be joining us today. But
it's because we're not talking about Star Wars,
or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's right.
Yeah.
But before we get to today's topics, I want to give a big shout out to Brian G, who is now our top contributor and our top super chatter. It looked like he might have been dethroned by Scotty Dub last week when Scotty Dub dropped a $399 super chat. Not to be outdone, Brian G comes along and says, "Hold my beer." He drops a $500 super chat to retain the top super chat spot on the Salty Saturday for 2024. So big shout out to Brian G and Scotty Dub. You guys are our Salty Saturday superstars.
Brian G just dropped his nuts on the table and said,
"Yeah,
do what you gotta do, bro."
Yep. And also a big shout out to William Forbes, who's taken up the third place spot. Haven't seen him in a while, but hopefully he's doing well. And Mexican Iron Man, who is one of our most consistent contributors, along with our top gifters, the queen of gifted subs, Jillian N, WG, Sam Schwager, Major Chai Chai, and Eric Winberg. These guys are always in the chat, dropping gifted subs for our members. And we just released a new members video yesterday. So if you guys get a gifted membership during the course of the show, be sure to go to our main channel and check out the members only playlist. We're putting in new stuff there every week. So hopefully you guys enjoy that stuff. And speaking of new stuff, guys, Vader, or I should say Mr. Butters, YouTube has selected us to test out a new chat feature called Super Chat Goals.
Oh, good.
We're able to set a goal for a number of super chats we want to try to achieve throughout the course of the live stream. And YouTube is encouraging us to give this a shot and see how it works. But we have to come up with a way to celebrate hitting our goal. So do you want to ask the chat, hey, what should we do if we hit our goal that we're going to test out?
That's super dicey, man. These chat people, they're lunatics. They're all insane, and they're going to make us want to do really sketchy, weird stuff. Brian might be into some of these ideas, but I'm not so sure I am. But if they have some ideas for stuff to do to celebrate making some goals, I'm down to listen. I'm not getting naked or anything weird like that.
I'll get naked all day long.
But yeah, man. Yeah. Let's set a goal and let's get some suggestions going in the chat. I think, what do you want to do? 10 super chats?
Well, we're going to give it about 10 minutes for people to kind of put their suggestions in the super chats, or in the chat, I should say. And then, Mr. Butters, you're going to choose the best option to celebrate, and then we'll start the goal clock.
So I actually have to read the chat for the next 10 minutes as they throw in suggestions. Okay.
If you want.
Okay, cool.
I know you don't. I know you can't read, so I
was just going to go to Twitter. There's this really fascinating thing on Twitter right now about this pole vaulter who failed at the Olympics because his dick got caught on the cross pole. And did you guys see that? That was crazy. So this is what we talk about here at the Salty Nerd Podcast.
His package was so big it cost him an Olympic medal.
It did. It's just like it got caught on the pole.
Big dick problems right there.
He won the gold medal in life.
And they slow motioned it right at the time where he got caught on that cross pole, and it's just like.
Well, we're going to talk about the Olympics in a little bit, but before we get to that, I want to give a big shout out to Eric Winberg, who gifted 1 Salty Nerd Podcast membership. Thank you, Eric. And we also have our returning Salty Superstar, Bob Dorsey, gifted 10 Salty Nerd Podcast memberships. Thank you so much, Bob. You helped us hit our goal right off the bat. You are awesome. Good to see you again, by the way. Welcome back. And GJJ, member for 12 months. He says 1 year. Yes, you've been a member for 1 year, GJJ. Thank you so much for your loyalty. That is truly great stuff. And want to, let me call up my banners here. So we have our 10 new members goal, which we've already hit thanks to Bob. So we're going to bump that up to 20, see if we can get that going. Also, want to remind everyone that after this live stream is over, the Real McCoy podcast is going to be going on. That's Mephisto's Movie Reviews channel. If you guys want to hang on for that, we're going to automatically redirect you there after the live stream's over. Or you can just go check out Mephisto Movie Reviews. Just do a search for it on YouTube and find when his show goes live. And also, if you guys want to support the show, you can either become a member here on the channel, or you can go over to saltynerdclub.com. That's our Patreon. And check out our movie commentaries over there and all that good stuff. So, guys, without further ado, we have some last minute stuff that we just got added to our discussion topics. Oh, before we do, we got Dan Crane, a member for 4 months. Hail Weekend Culture Warriors. Yes, hail to you, Dan Crane.
How are we cultural? I'd say I don't think we're very cultural.
Mr. Butters, you are the embodiment of culture.
No, I don't think I am. I think I'm anti-culture.
Yes. Brian is pop, you are culture. Together you shake and bake.
Oh, boy.
Shake and bake.
Yes, that just happened.
Oh, boy.
All right, speaking of stuff that just happened, let's talk a little bit about the big announcement that came from Egotastic Fun Time yesterday, which is the Orville is getting a season 4. And apparently Scott Grimes at the Las Vegas Star Trek convention, or I guess it's not technically the Star Trek convention anymore because they lost the rights to it, but it's the mission, 50-year mission, something like that. He got up on stage and he announced that the Orville is going to be returning for season 4, making Egotastic Fun Times Day, because he's been floundering for about 2-3 years without any new Orville to talk about.
The name of his show is literally called Talking the Orville.
Yeah. And he's been on the Orville train since it began. He had a couple good years there back when the Orville was actually going strong, and then they got Trump derangement syndrome for season 3, and everyone jumped ship. So I don't know, between how nobody cares about Star Trek anymore and nobody cares about the Orville anymore, how big of a thing this is. But Brian, I know that you in particular had something you wanted to say about this.
Yeah, I will take this as actual news when there's some kind of schedule or a confirmation or an actual website like Variety or one of the rags that have a good track record announce it, because we've seen this before from Orville actors where they just sort of throw news out there. Specifically, Scott Grimes, who's a great guy. I had him on my show a couple years ago during the Orville run. Great guy, but he likes to be. He's very optimistic about things, and I think that you can interpret what he was saying a little differently. You can interpret it as we're hoping to start filming, in 2025. Sure. Not we're going to film in 2025. Because here's the deal. The sets have been struck. They're gone. And as someone who was in those sets, me and my brother actually went to the Fox lot where they were. The big giant hangar bay where they built the ship, which was really rad. I mean, most of that show was practical effects. They built a ship. You can walk through the ship. We have pictures. It's really, really cool. Well, that ship is gone, dude. That ship that cost an extreme amount of money is gone. The shuttles that they built shuttles. They built them. Big, giant shuttles. They're gone. All the stuff, that entire hangar bay has been cleared out. Some other show is filming there now. In fact, if you take the tour, if you ever go down there, I think they're filming some new version of Fresh Prince in that exact hangar now. But here's the deal: the problem with that, when you strike all the sets and you remove all the props and all that, they didn't even go into storage, which they could have gone into storage, and they could have paid for storage for 3 years for what it cost for 1 year of it being on the set, on the lot. But they didn't. They just struck them. So if they do a season 4, you're talking about bringing these actors back who are in other projects. Seth, who has 3 projects going on right now for Peacock, and then building all those sets out again in whatever new studio they're at. Starting filming in 2025 that's an optimistic thing to say.
So, Brian, would you say this is fake news?
I think Scott Grimes is being optimistic. I think that I would love to hear the actual quote he said, and not just the follow up, because there was another website out there who said he said something about Orville starting shooting next year sometime. Awesome. That's cool. I want to see the actual quote, because I believe he was being typical Scott Grimes, which is a very optimistic guy.
Well, it came from Star Trek Las Vegas, which weirdly enough, we live in Las Vegas, and I completely forgot there was even a Las Vegas Star Trek convention, sci-fi convention going on right now. There's no hype about this thing at all around town. I'm not seeing any nerds. I work on the Strip. There's no nerds running around in Star Trek uniforms or Starfleet uniforms or Orville uniforms. I'm not seeing anything in town celebrating our nerddom right now. And this used to be just a few years ago. This was a huge thing every single year.
Yeah, Klingons running around, people in Starfleet uniforms.
Yeah, it's crazy how much how much it isn't hyped right now, because there's nothing in town going on about it.
Right.
It used to be everywhere. And even us, me and Matt, there was one point 6 months ago we were planning on, going like we had before, and at least spending a day, or we even considered getting a booth, setting up a podcast booth over there. And there's usually something that we're doing over there in some aspect or another. But this year there's nothing going on, so, I guess what do they got? They got the Orville. I think they're making that up just to get a little bit of hype going on around the convention. Yeah, and there's this Title 31 bullshit nonsense that
Section 31,
whatever it's called.
Yeah,
remember,
Scott wasn't even there to talk about the Orville. He was playing music or whatever.
Yeah. It's just a really strange vibe around the whole thing, because there isn't any vibe at all. It's very strange. It's very strange. So
I hope it happens. Don't get me wrong. I hope it happens.
No, I don't want to see it. I don't care.
I'm cautious about it. I don't think.
I don't need season. I don't need season 4 of the Orville coming out on the dawn of President Trump's new presidency, because that's all it's going to be. It's just going to be McFarlane spurging out about his Trump derangement syndrome for another season, which is all season 3 was. It was all bullshit. It was the worst piece of sci-fi television I've seen in years, and it was garbage. And
how does Seth even have time for it, dude? He has 3 active projects right now. Yeah, he doesn't have time for that. I don't.
Well, he can make time. Speaking of making time, guys, we're going to start our super chat goal. And if we hit the goal, then we'll let people who super chatted kind of decide what we can do to celebrate it. So basically, okay, it's saying I can't do it because I'm not signed in as the channel owner. That's good to know. So I guess we're not doing that today. So Dutch, Mr. Butters, you mentioned how Orville season 3 wasn't all that good. Mm-hmm. And there's no hype for a season 4, even though there's like a small contingent of people like Egotastic Funtime out there who've been begging for it. I don't think it's going to happen personally. I just don't.
I would like to see it happen. Don't get me wrong. I'm not on the same train that Dutch is on. I would like to see it happen.
Why do you like sticking like hot needles in your eyeballs? And
because the first two seasons were really good, and the third season, yeah, there were some stinkers in there. But
you are one of those freaks. Then you did it before the start of the show. You're sticking Q-tips in your ears like a madman.
You have to clean my ears before I put earbuds in, bro.
He's got to stab his brain a couple times to get it to work again.
No. These are the thin Q-tips. What a weird thing to say.
I want to know if Lamar and Joe are hyped up about the Orville season 4.
Oh, yes. No, I haven't even seen any of it. As a Star Trek fan, though, I will say I don't like the idea of kind of like a parody of it, like at the moment, especially because Star Trek is kind of at an all-time low.
Well, ironically, it's not a parody.
Is it not?
No.
No, it's the first two seasons legitimately honor Star Trek. Has. It's like you know what it is? Seth MacFarlane wanted to make Star Trek. They said no, so he's like, okay, I'll make my own. That's pretty much what he did. First two seasons it's just Star Trek
with some Seth MacFarlane humor in it, which was good. It was fine.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah,
but it was actually quite a serious series. It took itself seriously.
A lot of heart to it those first couple.
But for every episode with heart, there was the episode with Bortus and his cigarette smoking, which was fantastic.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, you would have like a really heartfelt episode that's like
these things are fantastic. These are the best
really super character development, and then another episode where Bortus is naked, spooning with another alien guy and smoking a pack of cigarettes, and it's really funny stuff. Yeah. Like it was. I think the first two seasons were actually great.
The first two seasons were fantastic. Jaloja, everyone, by the way.
Jaloja.
So what I actually want to ask Mr. Lamar and Mr. Joe about is the Rebel Moon director's cuts, because we all know that Rebel Moon belongs on the Perfect Turd podcast. I believe it's right up there with all the movies that you guys regularly review. But most people don't know that the actual 3-hour director's cuts for the 2 Rebel Moon movies dropped like yesterday, and no fanfare. Netflix isn't pushing them. But I started watching the first director's cut, and it's like a completely different movie. It's almost nothing like Child of Fire. So I wanted to hear from you guys. Do you think Rebel Moon deserves a spot on your show? Are you going to review him?
Well, Lamar, my complaint on every movie that we watch is that they're too long. So I don't think that's going to happen.
I mean, if we want to torture ourselves, that would be forever. But I will say this: I think I sent you, Joe. The thumbnail was very interesting. It was like tentacle porn. It was like one of the characters.
Hentai, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, this makes me not even want to see it more, because I was like, is that the thumbnail you want to use, to get people to watch this movie? But I saw the first one and I was like, nah. And then the second one, because of the first one, nah. And then now there's a director's cut. Joe, if you want us to go through a lot of torture, I'll share in the torture with you if you want it on our show.
Perhaps. It's just Zack Snyder is just an interesting guy, because he makes these. What's the movie that he really was inspired by? Excalibur. That movie ruined this guy for life. He just wants to make these big, long epics, and nobody seems to be interested. So, I don't know.
Well, people might be interested if he was a halfway decent writer, but he's a really terrible storyteller. Yeah. But I want to throw this to Brian. Brian, what the fuck is Netflix thinking with this strategy? Or that they make him make a worse version of the movie he wants to make, and then they release the versions that he originally wanted to make and don't tell anyone about it.
I don't know if they made him make a worse version. I think that he probably sold this as, look, you guys, we're gonna print money, ready? I'm gonna make these 2 movies, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to tell all my crazy super fans, which is like 63% bots, I'm going to tell them all that there's a director's cut coming 6 months from now. And they're all going to watch the director's cut too. And you're not going to have to spend money twice. It's brilliant. I'm sorry, Odin's here. So
but he's going to come up with some weird thing where he's going to proclaim that 73 million gajillion people viewed these right. movies.
More people than Avatar
according to
watched my movie.
And therefore it made over $1 billion somehow.
Made $1 billion. I deserve to be on the rank.
Ever created.
It's funny because I used to be a massive Snyder fan because I liked Man of Steel, you know? And now I'm like, this guy he's so into himself. He just loves himself. I like 300. I like his style, but he really needs like someone that is not a yes man. Sorry, a yes man on his team. He needs someone to be like, Zach, hold up, dude.
Yeah. He needs to retire. That's what he needs to do. He needs to retire and stop
making movies. He needs a partner that's gonna like use the visual style, but then ground him a little bit, because I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, I want to welcome Odin to the show. Odin is out there sweltering without air conditioning. But I'm glad that he could make it. I'm glad he's braving the heat of the Midwest to join us today on this salty Saturday. How you doing, Odin?
Midwest?
See his head
what?
shining.
I'm in the South, man. Tennessee is definitely not Midwest.
Down south.
South, wherever.
Down in the South.
Isn't Tennessee kind of in the middle?
Yeah, kind of, but it's South. It's definitely South. And Chattanooga is south end of Tennessee, so.
All right.
Yeah, but look, I'm lucky in that our house used to be an Airbnb that had 2 floors, so our bottom unit is working perfectly. So it's just our top unit that was having issues, but that's where our daughter sleeps, and so that's why it was a bit of an issue. And the smell, having that smell come through, was just like, oh boy, I hope nothing's on fire.
Yeah. Well, in celebration of Odin joining us, Brian is now ruining his eyesight with the 3D glasses.
Wow.
I feel like he's trying to enhance his other senses by destroying his eyesight.
I can smell so much more now.
Oh, it's going to be, instead of Madam Web, it's Mr. Web?
I don't smell very well.
Brian, just go to Amazon and spend $12 on a pair of cheap aviators.
Seriously.
I got aviators. I like these.
All right, guys. Well, real quick, Odin, you are just in time to talk about the Section 31 trailer that dropped. This is a last-minute addition on the topics, but I'm not going to play the trailer because Paramount loves to copy strike stuff. But I watched this thing, and it did not feel like a Star Trek trailer or movie or whatever at all. It felt like something that was Star Trek in name only. It's a movie. It's not a series or anything like that. But I was actually very surprised at how bad this trailer was. Like seriously surprised at just like how terrible this thing looks. So I want to throw this to Brian, who is our Star Trek expert on the panel. Brian, what's your take on the Section 31 trailer?
Looks very hip. Like fast paced. Like looks like it looks like if Zack Snyder made the trailer for this. It's very hip. A lot of very good, like gold, almost yellow.
Was there slow motion?
Yeah, there's some slow motion shots that get slow, then speed up really quick. You know,
oh my God.
Just like that. Yeah, it's funny because the trailer, like if it didn't say, and by the way, Star Trek is in really small font. It's like Star Trek Section 31. If you didn't see the little Star Trek right there, you wouldn't even I wouldn't judge someone by not knowing that it was a Star Trek trailer. There's so little Star Trek in this trailer. Like it's
look at how small that is.
Oh
yeah,
my God.
It's such a hip thing. Like it has the distressed lettering with the yellow background on the black. It looks like someone saw the Borderlands trailer and was
it looks like one of my game stream thumbnails.
Yeah,
but not as good.
Someone saw Borderlands trailer and like let's copy that trailer. It's really cool. and we'll add hip. And it's funny because I like Richardson, I like Michelle Yeoh, but it's funny. I like 3 of the actors in this. I like a lot, but I know it's probably gonna be garbage.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Lamar and Mr. Joe, you guys are the experts on all things shitty. What's your take on this idea that we're going to do like a Star Trek spinoff that is Trek in name only with a Academy Award winner?
The thing about the Star Trek spinoffs is there's so much other stuff they can do within the universe. The universe of Star Trek is way better than the universe of Star Wars that has all the spin-offs. Like you could do stuff with the Klingons. There's so much stuff that you could do. I'm not sure what this is. Like it doesn't make sense. It's got nothing to do with it.
I want to know who the fuck this guy is.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
This is like a freaking Halo reject. Where'd this guy come from?
Didn't Paramount make Halo too? What if that was like one of the leftover costumes or whatever? Like, you know what?
Yeah.
Save some money. Yeah.
Let's throw some of the let's throw this guy in there. We didn't use it anyways.
Maybe Master Cheeks will make a cameo.
Yeah. When did Star Trek have people like this in it?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That's kind of season original episode.
Yeah,
series,
I can see that in DS9.
Looks like Rebel Moon.
She just needs a mini skirt on, and be kind of.
Yeah, I can see that.
You see this guy back. See this guy back here, the
white and black
from the original series.
Yeah.
Yeah, the biggest problem with all the new Star Trek stuff is I think the people making it don't understand what Star Trek was about and like what people liked about it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just making random stuff now.
These are just random action flicks to throw some explosions and some lens flares and some shaky cams on the screen with
it's gonna be chock full of member berries, like it is. Like you like the white and black face guy. They're gonna see.
Oh my god, it's a white and black face guy.
Look at oh my god, it's a white and black face guy.
See,
remember, look, that was genius back then. Because they didn't have the graphics to really like illustrate that correctly, and like the whole point of that was to show the dichotomy of how ridiculous is it that these two races hate each other based on which side the white and black is. Perfect, but that was back then. Like we understand that you didn't have CGI or your makeup was a little on edge. Like we don't have to see that anymore. And look, I'm not knocking it. Great, cool. But like, if it's just in the background, then how much are you really committing to the Star Trek brand? You're not. It's that is literally just there to make Trekkies be like, check out the white and black face guy. Oh my god, it's great. It's all for.
See, and I'm not like a Star Trek person, and I did watch the trailer before we got on. Who is the guy that like wrote like Dune and everything like that? Like
Frank Herbert.
Yeah, can he? Well, is he still alive? Can he?
Wait, the original Dune?
No, he's not still alive.
Somebody needs to sue because I swear they took a lot from Dune, like the movie, because it's like it starts off on like a desert planet. It's all orangey and stuff like that, and then even like the look of some of the people, like that metallic look. I was like, is this Dune? And it's a very weird take for like Star Wars.
Well, it's in the mirror universe, Mr. Lamar, and it shows the rise of the evil Empress Giorgio, who was a character in a series that nobody liked and nobody watched, which was Star Trek Discovery. And she was brought from the mirror universe into the Prime universe, and then she got pushed back into the mirror universe or walked through that weird portal thing.
The Guardian of Forever.
The Guardian of Forever.
Which was a dude reading a newspaper. I don't understand that whatsoever. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Sorry. I can go off on this forever. I'm not going to, but I just say one more thing just to get it off my chest. Why would you make 2 new Star Trek properties that are based solely on the least performing and most disliked version of Star Trek you've ever created? Starfleet Academy is a spin-off of Discovery. Section 31 is a spin-off of Discovery. Discovery is the least performing, not even subjectively, objectively, worst Star Trek version you've ever given us. Most of the fans hate it. The few simps that are there can barely explain it away. And it performed so poorly. The only reason it even got 5 seasons was because it was partially funded by two other streaming services. Why would you base your future on what is objectively a failure? It makes no sense to me at all. Makes no sense.
Yes. Mr. Butters, are you looking forward to watching Star Trek Section 31?
No, I won't watch it. I don't think I'm going to watch it at all. I have no plans on watching this show. Maybe if I'm just like laying in bed and it's on when I'm flipping through the channels and there's literally nothing else on that I want to watch, I might give it a look. But no, I have no interest in this. I'm at the apathy stage with Star Trek, just like I am with Star Wars. I don't care about these shows anymore. If we decide to watch it out of spite to talk about on this channel, on this show on Saturday mornings, okay, I'll give it a watch. I'll put it up there with the invasion part of my life. In shows that are terrible that I watch anyway to make fun of. But nah, dude, this is just more of Kurtzman's ego. I have a feeling that's why we get all these shitty Star Trek shows, is because the guys that are in charge of these things want to do stuff that they want to do and not stuff that the people want to actually see. Does that make sense, Brian? So
100%. Yeah.
I'll say this: at least it's not like an 8-episode series that we have to slog through. It's just like
a movie, right?
Yeah, it's a one and done hour and a half to 2 hour movie. I think
that might make it a little easier to view and digest. Maybe we'll watch it.
I like Michelle Yeoh a lot, and I like Richardson a lot. There are a few actors in here that I like a lot. Like legitimately, I watch them in almost anything. So even if this was like normally, if this was Starfleet Academy, I wouldn't want to watch it. But I might watch this just because I like those actors.
That Tilly show, that Starfleet Academy. No,
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not watching that. That'll be the first Star Trek show I legitimately do not watch.
I didn't watch any of the last Discovery season. I only watched like 2 episodes.
I gave up after season 3 on Discovery.
Yeah. I gave up after the pronoun lecture.
I got the screeners, so I watched them all in one shot.
Yeah.
I was like,
after the Kelpian tantrum that destroyed every single warp drive in the universe, I was out. But Odin, I know that this is not Deep Space Nine, so I'm not going to ask you about it.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that because I just started watching the OG series.
Oh, nice.
I'm finally about 20 episodes in, and I was just going to make the one comment that it's one of those few times where I'm feeling very blessed because my only knowledge of Trek up to this point is DS9 in its entirety, random episodes of Next Gen, and now the first 20 episodes of original series. And so I feel blessed because now I can watch all of the good Trek and not have to worry about risking the bad Trek because y'all have already told me that it's not worth my time.
Well, I wanted to ask you, like, in terms of like Star Trek. So Star Trek has always been kind of like Paramount's golden egg. It's always saved Paramount's ass whenever they were like in hard times because like they were always so profitable and there was a hardcore fan base and all that stuff. And now, like, I think that they just approved the Skydance deal with Paramount, and it looks like it's about to be sold off. And they keep insisting on running this property into the ground. So I don't understand quite what they're doing with like the thing that basically gives them license to print money. But I wanted to get your industry take on the current state of Star Trek and why Paramount seems to be insisting to just destroy their most lucrative franchise.
I guess my only real guess can be the fact that they really, because I think you even covered this, they didn't really spend anything on the Star Trek Discovery because it was already paid for by Netflix, right?
Yeah, Netflix.
Yeah, and so maybe that's the mindset is, well, since we didn't pay for any of this anyway, might as well, give it a shot, put a little, maybe put like, I don't know how much the budget on this thing's going to be, but maybe $50 to $100 million, maybe overspending because that's what studios do. Maybe even upwards of like 150. But like, hey, you haven't spent anything this far, might as well just spend it, see exactly what you could get for it before finally being like, okay, yeah, we're done. That would be my only guess at this point, unless there's something else in the contract that said they had to do a movie. Again, that's the only thing that would make sense.
All right, guys, real quick. We got a super chat for $2 from Doomed, huh? Hey, I'm at STLV. I took a pic with Jerry Ryan. Oh, congratulations. Cool. Yes.
How much did you have to pay for that pic? Like $45? That's what I want to know.
So 199 from You Suck That Dong. Brian, show on Thursday, section 31, poop emoji.
I was sick on Thursday. I'm sorry.
Sure.
I was sick. I could not do a solo show on Thursday. I was just too out of it.
You know why, right? It's because you got 3D glasses on with no 3D.
Yes, this is true.
No, that's not why, bro. It's
also,
the AIDS.
I'm feeling sick right now. I think our entire house might have the coof, actually. And I'm here.
Brian just said it's the AIDS.
I just decided to gloss over that because
I got the hip, bro. It happens sometimes.
You know, you can get a shot.
I took some penicillin though, and some ivermectin, and I'm good. I
get some days. Get some horse paste.
Yeah, I got some horse paste.
Gary, who can't see ivermectin correctly, because he says ivermectin too. It's like there's no M in it.
I gotta tell you, I don't give a shit how it's pronounced. The joke still lands.
Get some of that interrectum.
I got the ivermectin.
All right.
And I'm good.
All right.
Sorry, AIDS.
And Joe Eager for $10. Zack Snyder making Star Trek is the stuff of nightmares. I mean, speaking of AIDS, right? Zack Snyder making Star Trek. Yeah, nobody wants that.
Slow motion. He already made his version of Star Wars. We should let him do Star Trek and see what happens. Let's go.
Down.
I was about to say, wasn't that
Rebel Moon?
Like he did yeah.
Everything's in slow motion. Oh, I want to see that. He might bring the miniskirts back. You know he will.
Yep.
You know he will.
I hope they never do that. That'd be the worst idea to ever do. The only good thing about being sick and my family being sick this week was that I didn't have time to actually watch the extended cut of Rebel Moon.
Odin, you're watching the OG Star Trek right now.
Yes.
Aren't the miniskirts just fire? They're the bomb.
Well, for me, I'm
the
like,
women back there are so much more hotter than
it's more of I'm surprised that they let that on TV. I mean, I understand it's the 60s and that was a big change from the 50s television, but I was honestly a bit surprised by it. I was like, oh, okay. Star Trek used to be very risque back in the day.
Oh man, the original series was like, especially for me, like watching it when I was like 13, I was like, yo,
well,
I'm loving this story. I'm loving these characters and the mini skirts, dude.
Guys, in the first 10 minutes of the director's cut of the first Rebel Moon movie, there are lots of boobies and full bush as well.
I don't know.
Bush?
Zack Snyder.
Yes.
Is it Jeb Bush? Is it Jeb Bush? Full Jeb Bush?
Yeah. He's like, please clap.
You sucked that dong for $1.99. Rebel Moon director cut, so good. Yes.
Why are you saying it in that accent, dude?
You want me to ban him from the
like he didn't write that like that.
I'm trying to get in character when I read these things. All right, guys. So we talked a little bit about Star Trek, and we're going to continue talking about it in the sense that Terry Matalas is back in the news. And Terry Matalas is one of these guys. He was the genius behind Star Trek Picard Season 3. And this article recently came out where Kevin Feige basically revealed that he was such a huge fan of Star Trek Season 3, he had to figure out who was the person responsible for it. And then he went to Terry Matalas and he said, I want to work with you. Here's what we have available. What do you want to do? And he basically hired him right on the spot. And this comes after Terry Matalas was practically begging Paramount to let him do the next Star Trek.
Yeah, he was begging him.
And basically Paramount was like, hey, Mr. Kurtzman, are you cool with this? And Kurtzman was like, nah, dude, fire that guy or ignore him or like whatever.
Bro, I'm trying to get Fat Tilly to do Starfleet Academy, bro. But, we're in contract negotiations right now. She demanded more pizza on set, but we need to actually fly it in from Chicago. Nah, bro.
Yeah, but like Paramount literally had the golden boy in their hand, the guy who could have saved Star Trek.
Yep,
100%.
And they let him go, and Kevin Feige instantly picked him up. And now Terry Matalas is going to be behind the second WandaVision spinoff, which is the Vision TV series.
Can't wait.
And it might actually be good since Terry Matalas is going to be behind it. So, Mr. Butters, did you have something you wanted to say?
I just was going to say, all of a sudden, I'm interested in watching a Vision show.
100%. Yeah.
For the first time ever, I can say those words. It's like, I'm curious now.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah.
So, Brian, you actually had some inside knowledge about what was going on while Terry was trying to get his next Star Trek property off the ground and why he eventually left. You want to share any insights with us?
Well, there was a brief time after Picard season 3 where he wasn't pushing that hard for it because he was in the middle of a Disney pilot that didn't happen. We were filming him in his garage, which is not even a garage. It's just like he basically turned his garage into an arcade room, and there's a DeLorean parked in the side. He's the coolest nerd I've ever met. And while we're filming him, he would randomly stop to make phone calls, and he would go like this. He's like being nice, Terry, like, yeah, on episode 5, we blah blah blah, and then he'd be like, one second, what the fuck? I don't fucking know. I told him. Excuse me, guys, just 1 second. And then he goes in the other room, and you can hear him yelling at someone. And that was around the time when he was trying to get the next season, the next version of Star Trek, and they were just every single person he was talking to was either giving him the cold shoulder. He went from like Golden Boy to being ghosted by everyone for no reason. And when we found out later on that is because Kurtzman was hopped up on this idea of doing Starfleet Academy, and they could only have a certain amount of shows or projects, Star Trek projects, going at the same time. So had he given it in to Terry and given Terry the opportunity to make Star Trek Legacy, then he would have had to have pushed one of his projects that he had been personally pushing for the last 5 or 6 years.
Odin, one of the issues here is that it's not just about writing a good TV show. You have to be a good producer as well, because dealing with egos like Patrick Stewart, who, basically was responsible for the first 2 seasons with all of his crazy demands and stuff like that. Terry's really good at navigating egos and getting people to do what he wants them to do. And Marvel's kind of take on their TV shows wasn't necessarily like traditional TV. It was more like, oh, this is going to be a movie. We're giving a lot of power to the directors of the TV shows. And with Vision, they're going back to the old school version of television production, where basically you have a showrunner, and that showrunner is in charge. So do you think that this might be a sign that Marvel is going to be turning a corner with their TV stuff?
I'll believe it when I actually see it. I think that's the issue, is that these things can be talked about, reported, speculated upon, but ultimately, other than Deadpool and Wolverine, there really hasn't been a whole lot coming out of Marvel that really gives us any sort of trust. I mean, you look at all the things that we've seen and heard about the upcoming Agatha show and all the name changes, the next major Marvel film event not being, until Captain Falcon next in February. And these are just not projects that are going to be able to build upon the success of something like a Deadpool and Wolverine. And so if I'm hearing things further out than that, with this show being showrun by Terry Matalas, again, it really is going to come down to, where are we in the state of Marvel, to the point where are we actually turning a corner, and are we actually moving forward, or is it just still more of the same garbage? Because I honestly just do not trust. I don't trust Bob Iger at all to be able to handle something like this. And then Kevin Feige also. I mean, we can say he had some good projects earlier on in his career, whatever have you. But I just don't trust any of them. So yeah, as much as people might like Terry Matalas, at the end of the day, I just do not trust the Disney machine to let go of any power.
Well, I think that's fair. So I want to throw this to Lamar and Joe. Guys, so again, most of Marvel's TV fare belongs on your show, essentially. But I was kind of surprised that Kevin Feige actually bothered to hire a straight white man to run one of his TV shows. What's your take on Vision and just the overall TV shows that Marvel's been producing in general? Do you think that there are any good ones?
Lamar, you know more about it than I do.
Not that much. Yeah, there was a couple I liked, but like it was maybe what was the one? I can't even remember it because reasons. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it was cool. It wasn't great, but I watched it. And then Hawkeye was cool, but then everything else, like I'm kind of jaded because they keep on doing this thing where they keep pushing Daredevil back, and I really liked that show. They had Echo, and I was like, well, Daredevil's going to be in it, so I don't care. But like, even with Kevin Feige, I never know how to say his name. Like hiring new people, I don't think is going to turn a corner too much, because I think it's turned too much of a corner. Like they have this weird kind of vision for what they want, even though it doesn't work. So I don't know how much, things can change, honestly. So,
yeah, I guess it does depend on how much they let them do. But
yeah,
I will say this, like Picard was a dumpster fire for a while, and then they did turn it around that last season, and the last couple episodes were great. So if he's responsible for any of that, then I would let him do whatever he wants.
He's entirely responsible for that whole season.
Then yeah, let him do whatever he wants, because he seems to know what he's doing.
Yeah, he managed to take 2 horrible seasons and then make gold at the end. I mean, he it was all him. He did very good.
Okay, yeah.
Am I under the wrong impression? I feel like Feige has realized something, and that he needs to make a drastic course correction for the MCU. You mentioned the Daredevil thing. Aren't they completely redoing the new Daredevil series?
Yeah, something like that. They
filmed it, and they go, "This isn't going to work. This isn't what people want," and so they're like completely redoing it. I might be wrong on that. I'm not super invested in the whole MCU thing, but then him going to getting Terry, because he knows Terry makes a quality product, and when he gets involved in something, he's going to make it right, and he's going to make it something that the fans want to see. And I think that's why he went after Terry Matalas. And I also feel like the same thing is he's doing with the big budget movies too. We're going to talk about the Robert Downy Jr. thing here in a little bit, but he went back and they got the Russo brothers and Robert Downy Jr. because he knows these are people that the fans are interested in what they're going to do with these stories. And they're talking about the Secret Wars and stuff. I don't know if you want to transition into that right now, Matt, or not.
I'm sorry. He let Deadpool and Wolverine make fun of him for like 2 hours straight.
Yeah, for sure. And it just feels to me like Feige, unlike Kathleen Kennedy, Feige understands that some things need to change drastically. And yes, we still have this stupid what is this dumb series coming out with the witch? We got that coming out. Agatha. And there's still Captain Falcon and some other stuff that they got to like get through and cycle through. But I figure once this phase that they're currently in is over, there's a course correction coming. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
I think there's a course correction coming.
Who knows?
Well, there's a counter argument to that, which is like they did just approve a season 2 of She-Hulk. So I don't know how much of a course correction is going on there.
It's true.
But real quick, we got a members chat from Keely Chow, member for 12 months, whole year for Keely. Let Zack Snyder make his own version of Game of Thrones.
I wouldn't be mad at that. That'd be weird, but
we already have a season 8. Like that sucked enough. So
there's going to be so much Bush in his version.
Yeah. Anthony Mark, member for 15 months. Thank you, Anthony. This means Odin has seen Balance of Terror and Arena, the original series. Hope the family gets well very soon. I'm sure if Odin were on the call right now, he'd appreciate that. And Jillian N., the queen of gifted subs, has gifted 5 more Salty Nerd Podcast memberships. So, guys, we're only 4 away from hitting our goal today. So, hopefully, we can get that going. All right. So, we talked a little bit about Star Trek, and now I want to discuss Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, geez.
Because news came out that the proposed Peacock reboot of Battlestar Galactica, which was being led by Sam Esmail, who, for those of you who are familiar with Mr. Robot, he's the guy behind that. He's been working on this for like literally years, like I think close to a decade probably. And Peacock just came out and said like, hey, we're not going to pay for this thing. It's too expensive. And so like now they're going to be going around shopping it around, but I don't know like really like where they can go with it since Universal and Sci-Fi own like the rights. But I know that Brian's been following this thing for a long time. So I wanted to get his take on it. Brian, do you think that this is basically just a sign that this is never going to happen?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't really have anything much more to add. I normally do, but I think a lot of these Hollywood does that a lot, where they try to hype something up, and I think the goal is to get people to come back to like the negotiation table to get a better deal, get a better contract, get someone involved, and so they put news out there and they hype things up to try to show people how excited people are about things. But I think a lot of people are very apathetic nowadays to a lot of stuff. Like Deadpool and Wolverine is one of those, like, it's an enigma, you know, it's the exception. Right. A lot of stuff people just don't really care about anymore.
Well, you know, Odin, I think a big factor of this is, number one, it was going to be an original series for Peacock, and Peacock's not doing too well. Comcast, Universal, they're looking at their streaming losses, and they're like, are we really going to spend all this money on yet another original series that isn't going to like gain us any new subscribers or new viewers or stuff like that? Because there's just no hype around the cock. You know what I mean? So what's your take on basically Universal and Comcast saying like we don't want to do Battlestar Galactica?
Well, I think the fact that you know the best evidence of what you just said about, you know, there's not a whole lot of thrill around this specific service is Brian hanging on to his Disney stock, you know, even though that's just a sinking ship.
What am I gonna do? Do I just sell it at like 80%,
put it all into
loss?
the Peacock, man. All right, that's what
that's fair, because Peacock is outstanding. I wish
might as well do it,
got
man. All right, because I guess like the other thing too is I'm happy to hear that, because don't remake Battlestar Galactica. Like don't remake these things that no one really is asking for, right?
To be fair, it was the original creator was going to be involved.
Yeah, but we've seen what happens. Doctor Who had an original, or someone who was seen as the heyday creator during a time, and it ended up being garbage still, right? So even if you have people that are known for being, you know, solid creators, that does not mean that in 2024 they are still solid creators. The unfortunate thing is that there are so many talented people that have just gone off the rails. I mean, I would go back to someone that's actually very much connected with this show, right? Or rather with the Salty Nerd channel, right? A little guy that directed a film called Logan, went after the Salty Nerds quite a bit, and then ended up making Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny.
So talking about my best friend there, Ode.
I know, but we know that he was able to make a very solid film and like a very talented filmmaker, and yet he also got so sick in the head with this ideology that it actually impacted his overall talent, I would say. And so and again, I don't obviously know much about the original creator of this show, and so I don't know if he's gone that route or not. But it is still, again, it's never. Was that
talking about Ron Moore?
I'm assuming that's who.
Battlestar Galactica.
That's Battlestar Galactica,
yeah. He said that he was going to be a part of it. So again, I don't think that we're really gonna, you know, always have a guaranteed hit in that specific instance. But then also, as far as like the money, is it going to be worth it? You also have to think about it maybe from a quarterly standpoint, because right now, what's going on? The Olympics. And they're getting, you know, a lot of views on it. Obviously, they probably paid a lot of money to get those streaming rights and things like that. But they're also probably making a lot of money from either subscriptions, from ads, and things of that nature. And so maybe their thought process was, okay, let's see how much money we rake in, or hey, maybe we're not making enough, or we don't think it's going to be worth it in the long run. I mean, there's a lot of factors that could ultimately make that decision for them.
Real quick, before we move on, I'm going to call this up from Scotty Dub. He says that he feels a bit insulted that I only put him down for $399 and not $400. It's not his fault that the super chat function doesn't round up that extra penny when using an iPhone. Scotty, I sincerely apologize. Next week, that will be remedied, I assure you. All right. Lamar, Joe, are you guys fans of Battlestar Galactica? And do you care that like the reboot basically, you know, got shunted?
I used to watch a little bit of it back in the day. I have some of like a book of it too. Yeah, I'm not disappointed that it's not going to happen. Like I'm sick of reboots and stuff. And for Peacock or any of the streaming services, as long as you're losing money, then try something new. Just risk it on something new or whatever, you know. So that's what I feel about it. But yeah, I don't want to see a reboot of this. I don't think anyone asked for it. So.
Yeah, you see that trend where they're trying to make things like where nobody asked for it. I guess it's kind of like, you know, to try to capture thunder or lightning or however you say it. But then it's like going to what you said, Joe. Like, you know, that's the creator's name, Ron Moore, right? I just want to make sure. Yeah.
Well, that he was the guy who rebooted it back. You know,
the Reboot creator.
Yeah, the Reboot creator. And now Sam Esmail, who did Mr. Robot, was trying to do the reboot of the reboot.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and it's like, if you're successful, with something else, and then, we're kind of in this state of reboots. I mean, why not just try something different? I mean, that's like, I guess it's a risk, but it's one of those things where it's almost like reboots have become like overdone. It's almost like, oh, well, we're going to get a reboot of something that I watched from my childhood. I really don't care, but, and I don't know. I think we're just going to keep on seeing reboots after reboots that we don't care about.
Unfortunately, they're the only things that make money and bring, because think about what are some of the most successful shows and movies right now. Like the top 2 movies at the box office are going to probably be Inside Out 2 and then Deadpool and Wolverine. And even though I like Deadpool Wolverine, it's still the 3rd film in that universe. And then, of course, the whole lineage of the Wolverine character. And then for TV, even though I'm a really big fan of it, look at how big Cobra Kai is. But that's a show that was made by people who love the original movies so much that they actually created. So in a way, you could say, like, there's some original content there, but it's still based off of, those 1980s movies. And so it's, that's kind of like, unfortunately, where we are, though, is that, and it makes sense because most original content, because it's kind of been, pushing nonsense, or honestly, this literally just came across my mind. I'm wondering how much of this is Game of Thrones' fault, because if you think about it, how many people put hours and hours of time into that show just to, during the last season and especially the last couple of episodes, to feel like everything was just wasted. So maybe that could be a part of it too. People like, I don't really want to get into new shows because I don't want to get screwed over. I'd rather have a property that there's some sense of knowing what it is and trust that's involved. I don't know.
All right. Well, just to be clear, the original creator and producer of Battlestar Galactica was Glenn A. Larson.
Glenn Larson.
Yeah.
We were way off.
Yeah.
No, that was the 70s version, way back when.
Yeah, that was the original version when it was a ripoff of Star Wars, essentially.
Yeah.
So
Mormons in space. It was great.
Yeah. So Mr. Butters, the Cock has renewed the Natasha Lyonne, Ryan Johnson show Poker Face. They've renewed Seth MacFarlane's TED series, and they've even renewed Twisted Metal, which you watched on the Cock.
Oh, well, I haven't finished it yet, actually. I'm like 5 episodes in, but
all these shows are getting season 2s. Are you surprised that they dropped Battlestar Galactica?
Man, I don't know how to answer that. Not really. I mean, Battlestar Galactica would be a massive, big budget kind of a show to produce. I don't know what they would be redoing for Battlestar Galactica. Are they retelling us the story again? Is it an extension of where the last show ended, even though it was a definitive end, bit of beginning, middle.
It was going to be a continuation of the story of some type.
Nobody wants that because there was an ending. The show was done. It was complete. It was finished. And it had a goofy, weird, kind of metaphysical, spiritual, weird message, meaning, ending, and everybody was, most people were fine with it. Some people hated it, and I get it. It was fine, but I personally don't need a reboot of that. I love that series. It's one of my favorite sci-fi series of all time. Probably in my top 5. It's one of the things I'll rewatch once in a while. I'm not going to sit and rewatch all 4 or 5 seasons of it. What is it? 4 seasons or 5? I forget. But it's a great show, and I don't need them to remake it. And I feel like maybe the people at Peacock were just like, this is going to cost a lot of money, especially with the way they make things now, because it's different. They make movies and shows like that differently now. It's different technology.
Sci-fi is expensive, bro.
Sci-fi is expensive. I mean, I would like to see it just on a visual level, just to see how they would redo the ships and the Cylons and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I don't want to see it, because I thought it was weird when they went from the old school 70s Cylons to the weird computer generated ones that we got in the Ron Moore show. But they grew on me. I liked it. I really liked the new Galactica. I mean, in the way they did the fights in space and everything. And, but it would be, I don't know, man. This is something I don't really want, need, or care to see. So,
well, one thing I do care to see are member chats, especially from Juliet, member for 1 month. Agatha comes out on the 18th of September, and Skeleton Crew on the 3rd of December. So we'll have more Star Wars to watch soon.
But I heard that Skeleton Crew might actually be watchable because it's apparently annoying and upsetting to people at Lucasfilm because it's not woke enough or some shit. So maybe it has a chance to be passable. So who knows?
I don't know. Anything under the Kathleen Kennedy regime is probably going to be shitty no matter what. So
probably, yes.
Yeah, Lamar, Joe, are you guys Star Wars fans?
Are you talking about currently or like ever? Because
the new stuff.
Obi-Wan hurt my soul because I thought that should have been a way better series than it was. Because it's one of those things where it's like, you know what's going to happen, so it doesn't really matter that Obi-Wan and Darth Vader fight. It's like, well, they're not going to die just yet. And then the Princess Leia was also annoying. Dear Lord. And then I have heard that what's the show? It's like really like gritty and stuff like that. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the Rebellion.
Andor.
There are some people that hate that, and some people say like it's really well written. So if I get Disney Plus again, I might try it. Like
Matt loves it.
Matt loves it. I thought it was boring.
I didn't like it.
So freaking boring, dude.
That's what it is. Like that's what it is.
If you're able to binge it, it's much better than having to watch it week to week.
I agree with that.
Yeah, but it's the best of the bad crop, I would say. But I will defend Obi-Wan in the one sense it has my all-time favorite Star Wars character in it, Wade. R.I.P. Wade. Love you, bro.
One of my favorite clips is the one that y'all did. Where was
Man, I can't believe they killed him off, man. That was so sad. Anyway, guys, we got a $20 super chat from Joe Eager. The Ron Moore Battlestar Galactica was groundbreaking. It would be hard to beat it even in the golden age of television, much less now. NBC was right to drop it. No,
so
can't
say
argue
we
with
all.
that. So say we all. Yes, indeed. And you suck that dong for $4.99. No subscribe. All right. No subscribe to the cock or P plus, but DVD to enjoy. Off to see the former president and rally in ATL.
What's wrong with you?
Wow.
He wrote it like that.
No subscribe to the cock or P plus.
No subscribe to cock.
Bought DVD to enjoy.
Good.
Off see former president. Rally.
Yes. You should have ended it with "and then." So. And we got one more super chat from Joe Edgar for $10. Andor had audio problems on release. I had to turn on subtitles. It sucked. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Joe.
There you go.
But you know what a lot of people are also sorry to hear about, guys, is that Robert Downy Jr. has returned to the MCU as a brand new character by the name of Dr. Victor Von Doom. Or Dr. Doom.
Who's sorry to hear that?
Yes.
It's a great idea.
I am. I think it's a terrible idea.
You're crazy. I'm gonna sell you on why
anyone
you're
who
wrong.
knows what Disney's doing with this.
Nobody.
All right. So basically, Robert Downey Jr. is coming back as an alternate version of Iron Man from a different multiverse.
We don't know that though.
No, it's pretty much been confirmed for the most part. Basically, he's evil Tony Stark, and Doctor Doom is no longer a mystic. He's now in a power suit. So it's going to be interesting. But basically, so Kevin Feige announced that they're bringing back the Russo brothers to direct the next two Avengers films, and then they paid Robert Downey Jr. like $80 million to return and reprise his role as Doctor Doom. And they renamed the fifth Avengers movie from what was it, the Kang Empire to
Dynasty,
the Kang Dynasty to Doomsday. And Jonathan Majors is over there in the corner, like, "What the fuck, man? Like, what's going on?" So this was like the big mic drop at Comic-Con this year, where basically they had Robert Downey Jr. come out and reveal that not only is he returning, he's going to be one of the most iconic villains in the Marvel universe. And a lot of people are hyped about this, but a lot of people are kind of upset because like it feels like it's cheapening the character of Tony Stark. So I wanted to get the panel's reaction to this. We'll start with you, Odin. Odin, what's your take on Robert Downey Jr. returning as a villain?
It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out for them. I mean, that's really what it is. Because $80 million to bring one actor back when you're not even talking about we're talking about a movie that's going to cost well north of $300 million just because he's in it. You know,
3 movies though.
Oh, 80 for 3. Okay, we're still talking about it being roughly $300 million.
I thought it was 2 movies.
No, he's in 2 movies as a main character, but he's gonna cameo in 2 other movies. Okay, so it's basically 3 movies. He's gonna be on the end tag for Fantastic Four.
Still doesn't matter because the budget's still gonna be insane for each of the films, no matter what. And really, what bothers me the most about it, and I'll throw in a wrestling analogy, it honestly feels like if, for instance, you're watching WrestleMania, and then all of a sudden the music hits and it's Goldberg coming out, and you're like, oh, it's Goldberg, man, what? Oh my gosh. But then you remember, okay, wait a minute though, this doesn't make any sense. You're just like, wait a minute, like, hold on a second. And then you add to that the fact that you have the Russos coming back, and it's like, okay, the last great Russos film that was made was Infinity War. They bungled the story in Endgame. I know people like Endgame a lot, but the story was bungled quite a bit. And ever since then, since they've gone to do stuff on their own, like they did the Gray Man, I think, right? Which was not good. And everything else that they've done. Yeah. So it's like, what have you done for me lately? They haven't really done a whole lot. And it's still, as I mentioned previously, going to be under the Feige regime. And so to me, it's like, okay, so we're going to get Endgame 2.0, where it's going to be, once again, hey, let's bring in a bunch of these people. And now we're going to make a decision that, again, I understand why people are excited, because I think Robert Downy Jr. is awesome. I think that he's going to kill it in that role. I think that he is typically worth that kind of money. But when you're Disney and you lost well over $1 billion last year, and yeah, you're making some of it up this year with the 2 movies, Inside Out, Wolverine, and then, of course, Moana, I think they're going to make some money on too. You're still going to have next year's Captain Falcon that's going to continue to bomb their overall total revenues, not to mention, of course, Disney Plus, which they're just throwing away money on too. So all I can think of is, like, this just doesn't financially make any sense to me, because, again, they are living in this world where they think Robert Downey Jr.'s presence alone is going to bring people back, when we know that actors really do not sell movies. All right, it's actors maybe in specific films that can sell a ticket, but you look at, like, the success of something like Top Gun Maverick, right? Because everyone's like, oh yeah, everyone knows a Tom Cruise movie, and it's like, yeah, what happened the next year with Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1? All right, so clearly there is, again, not a guaranteed audience just because you bring an actor back. So I think it's just, again, it's nonsensical from a writing standpoint, and then it's also just more money. Just, again, Disney continues just to throw the money. It's insane.
I think
make it rain.
I get what you're saying here, Odin, but I think us nerds on this panel don't take into account the normies' reaction to something like this. Yeah. My wife, I gauge everything in the normie world. I gauge off my wife, and I'm telling you right now, Robert Downey Jr. being in this movie, it's going to be $1 billion movie.
Yeah, my wife texted me like 2 days
because
later
my wife, yeah, she's going to want to go see this movie. She goes, oh, well, yeah, that's cool. Is he coming back as Tony Stark? It's like, no, he's not Tony Stark. Well, whatever. He's still really cool, and I like him. You know. So yeah, this is going to put butts in seats. It just the normie people coming into
that
this
comment,
because they know we're going to go watch this movie. They're not making these movies for us. But they need an angle to get my wife in the theater, and that's what they've done by putting Robert Downey Jr. back in this world.
Kalecki Oki makes a good point, though. Does $1 billion though mean it actually breaks even?
I mean,
so it's like, yeah, it might be $1 billion film, but it's not necessarily going to make money because of how much money.
It might be a $2 billion movie. I don't know. It's the Russos, Robert Downey Jr. I mean, they're stirring that sauce up, man. And
a good comparison for me. My wife walks into the theater. We're going to see Deadpool Wolverine, and she sees a poster for Gladiator 2, and she's like, "They made a Gladiator 2." Mm-hmm. It's like yeah, if I were to ask her, "Oh yeah, you hear Robert Downey Jr.'s back?" It's like, how is he coming back? And it's like, oh, he's coming back as a different character. She'd be like, that doesn't make sense. So there definitely are normies out there that are going to be all excited because they love Robert Downey Jr. But there's also going to be a segment of them that have some nerd cred that are going to be like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true, though. It can make sense. If you want to talk about nerd cred, it definitely can make sense.
Like Endgame's plot made sense?
Well, I mean, first off, you're weird about that movie.
How did time travel work in that movie?
First off, there's actually there's precedent for Tony Stark being Dr. Doom from the comic books. It's entirely possible he's playing a variant, but I don't think he is. I don't think he's playing a variant. Remember, Dr. Doom wears a mask because he's upset with how his face was ruined. Right? His good looks were destroyed. He's all scarred up and shit. So you're gonna have this. I don't like. People are talking about, oh, he's going to be playing the variant where he, gets adopted by Venom. Okay, whatever. Maybe they go that comic book route, or maybe he's just playing another character, and he's going to have makeup on to look disfigured because that's exactly what the reason why Dr. Doom wears the mask. Maybe that's the reason.
Robert Downy Jr. is the only person allowed in the world of history of Hollywood that he can be a black man and be accepted.
That's true. He's the first person to put blackface on and not get canceled.
Well, Brian, there's a difference. There's a difference between him playing a different character and him being paid $80 million to never see his face. I don't buy that.
Well, you're going to see his face, but I think these. Look, if Dr. Doom doesn't have a scarred up face, then there's a mistake being made.
Right.
That's the character, man.
Well, this is Marvel we're talking about.
They're gonna scar up his face. They're gonna. If they don't scar up his face, then someone is failing so hard.
Where have you been the last several years? When have they ever done the things that they're supposed to have been doing?
It's such a basic thing, though. This would be like, I don't know. This is so basic. No one can make this mistake. You don't even have to be a comic book fan to know that Dr. Doom has scars on his face. That's the reason he wears the mask. It's a common. Even the bad Fantastic Four movies, they scarred up his face. You can still tell who was playing him,
right?
But his face is all messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Look, it's entirely possible he's just playing a character.
Into Marvel. I think you put too much stock in Marvel and Kevin Feige, Brian.
No, but I have trust in. I love RDJ. He's never let me down. Every movie he makes, I like. Everyone. Agreed. Even the Dr. Doolittle movies, I'm like.
I was gonna say, did you watch Dr. Doolittle? Because no one else did.
I watch it with my kids, and I'm like, I think I like this. I'm not saying it's gonna win awards. I'm not gonna watch it again, but it worked.
As the chat says, Dr. Doolittle.
Dr. Doolittle.
I think Robert Downey Jr. is the modern version of the old school Hollywood actor whose name alone sells tickets. He's one of the last.
Yeah.
Name recognition.
So why did Dr. Doolittle flop?
Up there with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, why wasn't he headlining Oppenheimer?
Yeah. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just saying. All I'm saying is the normies.
Didn't he win awards for Oppenheimer?
Yeah, he won an Oscar for like best supporting actor.
He did a great job, but I still dislike that movie so much.
Yeah, but
at least they did Adam Driver.
No, did you like Iron Man 3 then, Brian?
You know, actually, I did not. Iron Man 3 is on my lower tiers of Marvel movies. Not great.
Which one was that? That was
and Thor: Dark World, really low on the list of Marvel movies.
I like that movie too.
That movie was just like. If you watch everything together, it's fine, but like on its own, it's not great.
Well, I want to throw this to Lamar and Joe because this was like the thing that brought the house down at Comic-Con this year. The big reveal. What's your take on Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Dr. Doom in the MCU?
Oh, good for him. But they paid $80 million for hype, basically, to breathe life into something that was kind of dying. I think a lot of interest in this stuff was dying, and people are talking about it again, so that's good. But somebody in the chat I saw was hoping for Bruce Campbell to be Dr. Doom.
That would have been awesome.
My
language, sir, because
that would have been amazing.
I think he's playing the character with the Spider-Man character with the glass dome on his face.
Oh, Mysterio.
Mysterio. He's gonna play the actual, not the fake Mysterio, but he's gonna play the real Mysterio at some point in Spider. He teased that a couple of years ago.
That's a Sony property, though, Brian.
Yeah.
Oh, Robert Downey Jr. Get your money. I think that's
bag.
Just
he doesn't
get
need
the
no
bag.
Money.
For me, it kind of turned me off from Marvel because really after Endgame, I haven't been as hyped as I was before, and this seems like a act of desperation. I heard a rumor, and I was more hyped about this. Henry Cavill might have played Dr. Doom. I would have liked that a lot more than this.
Cavalrine, bro. We need Cavalrine.
I'm just gonna be because normal people are gonna be like, Robert Downey Jr. is back. I think some of them are gonna be like, but he looks the same as Iron Man. Like they're still gonna be. I don't know. I think it's a half and half if it'll be successful. It turned me off. I'm just like, and they ran out of ideas. Honestly,
it does scream a little bit of desperation. I will agree with that.
Yeah,
totally agree.
Yeah, he did say same task, different mask, which and they said that like 3 or 4 times, which makes me think he's gonna go like the evil route with like I'm trying to protect my Earth, so I gotta like sacrifice to make that happen, which is what Doctor Doom did in the comics a couple times. I mean, it's entirely possible to make this comics book accurate, or he's just playing a completely different character. And either way, I'm here for it, dude.
I need to go back and reread Marvel Secret Wars. Because that's what we're doing here. We're building up Secret Wars.
Secret Wars, right?
And that's going to reset the entire MCU, right? If I remember right, it was one of those big event comics that like took all the other multiverse worlds and shit and kind of like condensed everything, right? It's like we have too many things going on, so we're going to simplify these universes, and that's what I think Secret Wars ended up doing, right? Am I wrong? Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, don't quote me on that because I haven't read it since the 80s when it came out, but I need to go back and check it out. So I do remember
I'm listening to really abuse popular. Victims.
So.
this time they'll love me. I know it. They won't let me down this time. I just know it.
Well, Mr. Butters, you know, it's been a while since Comic-Con felt relevant, you know, and the Hall H presentation that Kevin Feige and Marvel gave definitely got people excited and talking about it. They revealed that Galactus is going to be the main villain in the Fantastic Four film. There's going to be a female Silver Surfer. There's going to be a new Doctor Doom, kind of leading into like the next Avengers film. What's your take on the fact that you know, Comic-Con actually felt like it was old school Comic-Con this year?
Did it feel like an old school Comic-Con? Because I still don't feel like it's quite back yet, but you know, I know we have a lot of people in our social circle that actually went this year, but I didn't even know it was going on until people like were already there and were streaming from it. But I guess I've just kind of been not paying attention. I've been like focusing on other outlets, you know, like the Salting or Gaming stuff. But no, I hardly paid I paid very little attention to what was going on at Comic-Con, and I still feel like I'm getting caught up. So, but yeah, I mean, it is good that there's a lot of hype coming out of Hall H. You know, it was cool to see that video of Robert Downy Jr. coming out there with his little plastic mask on and doing his thing. And, you know, that was cool. That was cool. But, you know, that was like the only thing I can think of that I can remember coming out of Comic-Con this year. And there used to be like 3 or 4 days of nonstop hype coming out of Hall H. Every single day they had like 2 or 3 different big giant event things that would come out of that room. And this year it was the Marvel stuff. You know, I don't feel like the studios are all going to Comic-Con anymore like they used to, and there's not as much nerd stuff coming out. So so I don't quite get why you think Comic-Con is back the way it was. I don't think it's ever going to get back the way it was, you know.
Well, I know that ever since COVID, movie studios stopped appearing at Comic-Con. And this year, Marvel came back and basically dominated because they were the only real movie studio out there. Yeah.
These studios, they're all doing their own thing. Disney has their own thing that they do now, right?
They've always had their own thing.
Yeah, D23.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm wondering because they actually do have a D23 this year.
You know, and they've bought all the studios that used to go to Comic-Con. So there's really not that many big studios that are making nerd movies left to go to Comic-Con, right? Is that accurate at all? I don't know. But no, it just seems like there's less stuff coming out of Comic-Con now. But that's just my opinion.
I want to ask Brian, because you know the announcement that Robert Downy Jr. was coming back as Dr. Doom kind of took all the oxygen out of the other announcements. But the big thing is basically they showed some footage of the upcoming Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah.
And you know, Pedro Pascal is now the smartest man in the entire Marvel universe. And they're basically telling a story that happens in the multiverse and then crosses over into the main Marvel universe. So I want to get your take on what you think about what they announced for the Fantastic Four movie.
I saw the footage. A friend of mine filmed it with his phone and sent it to me. It's very odd because Galactus is supposed to be like a planet eater, but for some reason they had him like looking in the windows real big. But that was just test footage. The idea with Fantastic Four, I think this is what the movie is about. This is what I think is going to happen. I think that it's another universe. It has that retro steampunk style, whatever. Not steampunk, but like the retro tech style. I think their experiment is going to open up some kind of multiverse rift, and they're going to get thrown into the sacred timeline by the end of the movie.
The sacred timeline.
I mean, that's what it's called. Earth 616. Right? Like the Marvel proper, what we're following, right?
We are not in the sacred timeline, Brian. We're in some weird.
We're in the worst timeline. Yeah,
we're in the worst timeline.
That's what they call it in the movies, bro. So I'll be like it's called the sacred timeline or Earth 616, but like MCU proper, not the Fox spinoff or the Sony spinoff. You know,
we're literally being in the Matrix right now. We're in the Matrix.
Okay. So the whole thing with him being the smartest guy in the universe, in the multiverse, is actually comics accurate. Reed Richards was supposed to be like this incredible genius. You know, like his main superpower is not just being stretchy; it's really like his brilliance,
intellect. Yeah,
his intellect. So that's comics accurate, which is good. That's what we want. We want things that celebrate what we grew up reading and looking at. So I'm cool with that. I think that they're probably going to fumble the bag with Fantastic Four. I like the style. I like the look of everything. The trailer did look cool, but I think the casting is. I don't like the casting for Reed Richards. Can Pascal pull it off? Sure. Yeah, I'm sure he can. He's a good actor. But I have a feeling they're going to fumble the bag a little bit. Hopefully it's not going to matter that much because it's going to get us to Secret Wars and that end tag. And I think Secret Wars is a chance to really clean up and make a lot of changes that I think Feige is looking forward to.
Did anyone else notice the Fantasticar in Deadpool and Wolverine?
Oh yeah. Saw that.
Yeah, they're basically setting the stage for that. But speaking of Deadpool and Wolverine, guys, I don't know if you noticed this, but Jamie Lee Curtis came out and bent the knee to Marvel and Kevin Feige. This is a kind of a funny story, guys, because basically Jamie Lee Curtis, she's kind of had a long-standing beef with Marvel ever since. So she did this movie called Everything Everywhere All at Once. It was kind of like a scrappy indie movie about multiverses. And then when this movie came out, Marvel launches like their version of the multiverse with Doctor Strange. And so she basically came out and started bad-mouthing, the multiverse and Marvel and all this other stuff. And at Comic-Con, she was there to kind of promote her new movie, which is Borderlands. And they asked her, what phase is Marvel in right now? Because they were going around asking like every actor at Comic-Con this question. And she basically said, bad. That was her answer. They were in phase bad. And apparently word got to Kevin Feige, and he, I guess, cornered her somewhere and was like, what the fuck? It's like, why are you bad-mouthing Marvel? And so she publicly came out with a apology on her Twitter account that basically said, my comments about Marvel were stupid and I will do better. So Captain Falcon got to her. And he says, I've reached out to Kevin Feige and will no longer play in that mudslinging sandbox of competition we call the internet, nor will I engage in the toilet paper promotion or gameplay that is designed for clicks, not content. But one of the interesting responses to this was that Ryan Reynolds basically came out and he was like, wait a minute, does everyone who made fun of Marvel have to apologize now?
Ryan Reynolds is awesome. I love that dude.
Yeah,
she should have apologized. And Ryan's response was perfection.
Yeah,
because he just spent he spent their money, a lot of their money, basically making fun of Marvel for 2 hours. Beautiful thing.
Well, I wanted to get the panel's reaction to this. Why do you think Jamie Lee Curtis decided to bend the knee to Kevin Feige?
Oh, maybe she wants. Maybe she wants. Maybe she wants to work in the future.
Yeah. She
I don't know. She
saw that. She was looking at that Deadpool Wolverine money and was like, "Oh, I want some of that."
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's coming out in Borderlands. She's been on multiple Ryan Murphy TV shows. She's been doing movies. She got, I think, a Best Supporting nod for Everything Everywhere All at Once. She's pretty much Hollywood royalty, like she's been in the business for so long. So I'm just kind of surprised that like, she decided like, oh, I'm sorry for the joke I made, because her joke was pretty funny.
Maybe she didn't want to like cause any more ticket selling issues for Borderlands. I mean, there's no hype for this movie, right? So
and it looks terrible.
I don't think she wanted to like damage it any more than she could, because she was probably afraid she'd get canceled or something by Disney's version of the Snyder bots out there or something. I don't know, but
guys, don't forget,
it's kind of weird.
Don't forget she's got all that yogurt money, so she doesn't need to worry about anything. But Odin, I wanted to ask you, because do you think Jamie Lee Curtis is angling for like a role in a Marvel film?
I mean, it's hard to say whether that's the specific thing or not. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, she's probably looking at the situation right now financially and saying, oh, maybe I shouldn't be so quick to go after them. It's probably more of a self-preservation thing, though. As you mentioned, like if she has movies coming out where she's connected with those studios, or she's worried about those financials, maybe she thinks that it's the right play. The problem, though, is that it might make some of the higher-ups happy, but to general public, it just honestly comes across as being disingenuous. So it's I don't quite understand that move. I don't think her agent probably gave her the best advice with that move. But of course, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I imagine there's something financial going on.
Lamar, Joe, do you think that celebrities should have to apologize for making a joke?
No, I mean that's just kind of a quick, little bit of sarcasm. It's not super insulting. I just feel like her agent and her PR people and everyone that works for her collectively clutched their pearls, and they called her up and they're like, don't take that back. But yeah, I wouldn't apologize for that.
Yeah, I mean, she's not the first person to say the first actor, big time actor, to say something bad about Marvel, or director Martin Scorsese to say something bad. Probably trying to, make sure she has like, maybe a role or something like that. But at the same time, I don't think she was like F Marvel. She just said, bad. Like it wasn't, I don't know, like when you apologize, it's almost like, well, in the context, what are you apologizing for? Like, you're just giving a critique, or are you like aiming at like saying Marvel is a terrible company and all this stuff? It was an opinion. It wasn't like a super directed insult. Yeah.
Well, Brian, actress Mackenzie Davis, basically when she was asked this question, her reply was death, and she hasn't come out and apologized quite yet. What's your take on that?
Yeah, you should be able to criticize things. Like, especially when like it's objectively bad, when most people are not supporting, promoting, hyped about it. Criticism is really important to art. How can artists change what they're doing, course correct their art to create successful, publicly successful projects if there's no criticism? You have to have criticism so people can grow, learn, change, evolve, and stop doing stuff that isn't working. If you're not allowed to criticize a movie or a TV show or anything art that is promoting a message that the majority of the public don't want to support, then they're gonna keep doing it because their little echo chambers are telling them, do it. You're doing great. You're spreading the message. This is right for the future, whatever. And no one's telling them this is garbage. Stop. Mm-hmm. Stop doing this. Stop doing that. Start promoting. Start doing something the fans want to see. So yeah, criticism is important. And I don't think anyone shouldn't get a job because they lightly. Her criticisms were so tame too. Like honestly, Ryan Reynolds was harder on his own employer than what Jamie Lee Curtis said. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. He got that Mint Mobile money though, so that's probably why.
He does. He got that Mint Mobile.
Like, man, I'll be all right. I'll say what I want. So
yeah, he doesn't need the money no more.
It's gonna go buy another soccer team.
Vodka team.
Yeah. He's gonna buy a second soccer team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
mean, you're right. You're right.
Ryan Reynolds wins at life, man.
He does.
So speaking of winning at life, though, guys, did you hear that Don Lemon is suing Elon Musk. This story, it's so unbelievable. So basically, former CNN anchor Don Lemon, he and his representation is going after Elon Musk for an insane amount of money because Elon Musk backed out of the deal that he had with the guy to exclusively have his show on the X, formerly known as Twitter platform. And it's kind of funny reading this article in Variety because basically they didn't have anything signed. Like there was no actual contractual agreement. And then Don Lemon interviews Elon Musk and basically calls him a racist to his face. And Elon breaks up with him over text where he just sends his representation, the contracts or like the deal is off. And everyone's like, what the fuck, man? And it's like, well, what did you expect, right? So now Don Lemon is suing for unspecified amounts of damages. And basically Elon came out very quickly after this happened. And he basically said, Don Lemon was making really erratic and crazy demands. And this is stuff that we heard back in the day, like when it was announced that this deal was off. He wanted a ride on the spaceship. He wanted to go shoot a podcast in the moon or something like that. Very, very weird stuff. But do you guys think that Don Lemon is just desperate for attention, or is there anything to this lawsuit?
Yeah, he needs money.
Just looking for attention. Trying to stay relevant. Just trying to stay relevant.
No, absolutely. No, he is. And what's the funniest thing about it is if he wants to sue anyone for damages, he should sue himself because he is the only one who has damaged his career.
Yeah, let's not forget that CNN fired him for basically being abusive to female co-anchors on CNN. First, they gave him sensitivity training, then they suspended him, and then they eventually just fired the guy. And
I have an idea. I'm going to start a podcast, and I'm going to interview the guy that I'm trying to get to be as my main number one investor. Okay, but during this podcast, I'm going to attack you and talk mad shit about you, and to just try to destroy your reputation on this podcast that I'm trying to get some money out of you from. It's just it's ridiculous the way he did this whole thing. It's just.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because I remember when Don Lemon came on and announced that he was going to have this thing, this partnership with X, and it was right after Tucker had come out and announced his deal with the platform, and so it was going to be like, oh, he's going to be like the Tucker of the left, right?
Right.
And that initial interview that he did with Elon Musk, not only did Elon Musk absolutely destroy him, but you could literally see in real time as it dawned on Elon who this guy was and just how little morals and he was like, so you're basically going to come on X and do the failing CNN style of fake news. I don't want to support that. But he did say that hey, he's not banned from X. He can come on X, do his show as much as he wants. We're just not going to pay him to do that. And so it seems to me they don't really have a case here. What do you think about that, Odin?
I mean, yeah, I honestly just don't really see. And again, it really does feel like he is just trying to get this for attention at this point because he doesn't have a case, at least that I can see. And then also, wait, you're Don Lemon and you're going to be going up against one of the richest men in the world who is already showing that he can go toe-to-toe with Disney with his funding of the Gina Carano case. So it's it does not make a lot of sense just even there unless it's I'm saying this because I am going to try to get my name in the spotlight. Maybe CNN will bring me back, or maybe someone will hire me because I'm going after Musk, right? It honestly just has that kind of play to it where it's I'm going to try to disrupt things and make it uncomfortable for Musk, even though I have no chance of doing anything because I only have to blame myself for where I am, and maybe he'll get hired by somebody else. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, it's funny, Lamar and Joe. So a lot of people have been, ever since Elon took over Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, they've been saying there's a rise of hate speech on the platform. Celebrities are leaving and going to other platforms. It's losing its credibility. But in recent times, so you have, some of the biggest people on the planet, like Tucker Carlson, doing exclusive stuff with X. You have the president of the United States announcing that he is not running for re-election on X before anywhere else, even like the mainstream news organizations get it. Jamie Lee Curtis issued her apology on X, to go like straight out to the news ether. People are saying that X is the best real-time news platform on the planet. It breaks news quicker than any other platform out there. It doesn't censor like Facebook saying that the picture of Trump after he got shot was a deep fake. So there's a lot of things going right for Elon and Twitter, but it seems like Don wants his piece of the pie, and so he's going to come after it. What's your take on this? Do you think Twitter is still a relevant platform?
Oh boy. How long was it, Joe, when I could actually check my Twitter like out in public without like any pornography or anything like that? And then they're like, oh, well, it's official. Like, you can have anything you want. Twitter is not going anywhere. I don't think Don is going to get any money. If I could talk to him, I'm like, bruh, no. You're dealing with billionaire status, and Twitter, you can dang near say anything you want. Yeah, they have the little, things that check for like credibility, but nah, Don is no. What if he does something petty, like Elon Musk say, all right, I'm a countersue. Like, what if he does that? So I mean, that would be embarrassing. Yeah,
Don's like,
because it can happen. It can definitely happen. Yeah,
defamation for sure. I mean, there's a lot of things there you could go after him for.
Just imagine Don's face, though, like, shit.
I don't know. Lamar, I don't know if you know this about X, but there's like a little 3-dot thing on the top of every tweet where if you click it, you can say, I don't like this thing. Don't show me any more like it. And it can customize your feed. So you can get rid of all that porn if you really want to.
Yeah, I haven't gotten porn in months.
The problem is a lot of the
people likes it. That's the problem.
A lot of the people that, in B movies and stuff like that, it's a web.
Yeah,
that was the biggest thing, and we were like, "We like you."
For me,
that
it's DMs.
That happened to our Instagram too.
Yeah,
like a lot of the B movies.
Yeah, Instagram is like 90% hose, just bouncing up and down.
See,
I try
to customize that. The second I open up Instagram, like my wife was the other day, she was like, "Hey, babe, let me go use your Instagram so I can add you to this list." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." And I give her my phone, and she opens up Instagram. The first thing is like, and then she scrolls down, and the next one's like,
all of mine
everything, and she finally gets to like a Trump video or something. I'm like, babe, I don't even follow these people. I don't know what's going on.
Because all of mine are animal videos and toddler video, like just like toddler parent videos and stuff. It's all about what you're consuming. Just saying.
Yeah, my feed's just filled with pineapple pizza. It's just,
well, we're safe now, but boy, I tell you, X was on some. And then Joe can attest to the Instagram.
Well, man, free speech means you're going to get stuff you don't want to see too, along with stuff you do.
Yeah, I get a lot of random posts where I'm like, what is this guy on about? He has TDS, and I look like I'm not following him. I'm like, oh, well, I'm just getting served this for some reason.
Yeah.
Do not like.
Yeah, if you tell the X algorithm what you like and what you don't like, they'll serve you more of what you like.
Also, it depends on which feed you're on, because you have your feed, which is just people you follow, and then there's the other feed, which shows you recommendations. So
yeah, and you can also make your custom feeds via lists on there. So like you don't even have to be following people who are on the list, so you can keep all the naughty stuff segregated.
I wish I could go on there and say, I wish I could go on there and say, I know who I'm voting for. I don't want to hear any more political nonsense. Just get off my feed.
Well,
you're not going to change. You're not changing my mind. So yeah.
There you go, Lamar. No more excuses, Lamar.
We're good now. I had to do all that. I can't put you in another section. I was like, oh man, but yeah. But going back to it, Don. Nah, man, don't.
Don Lemon's always. I don't know much about all this, but he's always come. When I see clips of him, he just seems like the ultimate tool for some reason. Like, I'm like, what is he even saying? So I don't know.
No, the worst was on Cuomo's show where him and Don Lemon would get on at the end and just kind of like riff, kind of like a live stream style type thing, and it was like you combine the powers of those two guys, it becomes this cringiness that you just can't even deal with. So like blew a hole in the earth. Yeah, cringe level factor 1 billion with those two guys. And they haven't gotten much better since they got fired from CNN. But Brian, Lemon's attorney, Carney Sherigan, said in a statement, "This case is straightforward. Ex-executives used Dawn to prop up their advertising sales pitch and then canceled their partnership and dragged Dawn's name through the mud. You don't have to be a genius to see the fraud, negligence, and reputational damage here." Do you think that's an accurate statement?
I want to know how much that chick is making per hour. Because I bet you a lot of money. Don Lemon called a bunch of law firms, and on the 5th call, some chick recognized his name and was like, "Yeah, listen, we can totally win. It's going to cost $1,500 an hour, but we're gonna make this money for you." There's no way she's doing that pro bono. She sold him on a case that is unwinnable. And all that's going to happen is he's going to get a giant bill from that law firm at the end of when this is all done. That's what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Well, you know what drives me nuts about Twitter, and this is on a side note, is I hate the reply guy where people reply to stuff with something that's not what the original post is about. That drives me nuts. And I need to say something. If you bring up Twitter, I'm going to say it. I block every single account that does that. I don't care if they're my friend, if I've known them for years. If you respond with something that has nothing to do with the original post, I'm blocking you. I'm sorry. Don Lemon's gonna lose. He's gonna get a fat bill from that attorney.
Yeah, and also from what I'm gathering from what he's saying, is he trying to argue that the value of Don Lemon's name is what he was being used for? Because it's like that's a hard sell. It's like because he's someone who has been fired from a network. No one wants him, and so it's like, how can you even say he has that in value as a creator of any kind? You can't, and so that's why it's gonna be thrown out on his face because they're gonna be like, okay, prove your value, and they're gonna be like,
He probably is floundering out there a little bit because it's not like he was on Fox. If you get fired from Fox, you just go to Newsmax, right? So,
it's true.
What is the Newsmax version of CNN?
MSNBC.
Well. I don't know about. There's something under MSNBC that he would have to go to, but
Huffington Post.
I mean, X was his. That was it, man. That was his shot, and Elon said nope. But he can go out just like we did. He can go make a YouTube channel. That's what Tucker did, right? He could go make a YouTube channel and do his own thing. He has an audience.
Yeah,
he would make money. Go do that. And rebuild yourself back up.
He probably looks at YouTube as being lesser than
beneath him. Yeah.
Well, Tucker was, I would arguably way bigger than he was, and that's what he went and did. And it took him about a week to get back on his feet.
Well, if you saw some of the demands that Don Lemon was making of Elon Musk, you can tell that he has a very highly inflated ego about himself.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't give the guy a fucking sandwich if he was on the side of the street up on the overpass. So, but whatever. He just needs to go out and do his own thing.
He needs to go to Threads and make his presence there because no one else is doing much there. So, might as well be the first.
Well, Threads, you're not allowed to talk politics on Threads.
Oh, there you go.
What?
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm out there.
They specifically ban any controversial and political talk on Threads.
So Threads is Facebook, Meta, right?
Yep. It's basically Instagram.
Didn't Zuck just get red pilled last week?
I don't know about red pill. He thought that the way that Trump acted after he got shot was pretty badass.
I feel like he's and I've heard some other stuff about how he regrets going along with what the government was telling him to do with the briefcase and all this stuff.
He did say that too.
I think he's coming around, man.
He apologized.
It's kind of weird
for the calling fake news the picture that was floating around.
Yeah,
having that flag.
Well, he also said that he's not going to be spending money this election season, whereas last time around he spent like $300 million, something
which
like
is
that.
Still a net gain.
It's very
because
interesting.
it's still millions of dollars not being spent in one direction. So it's actually still action, even
if you believe him.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't trust the guy.
But guys, speaking a little bit about celebrities and influencers and the government, because we have someone who served here on the panel, and I grew up in a military family, I wanted to talk about this, which is basically that the U.S. Army made a influencer deal with The Rock, and it famously, spectacularly backfired. There's this article here in military.com. Basically, the Army spent $11 million on a deal with UFL, which used to be the XFL, which is a minor league professional football team that is owned by The Rock, at least partially. And they also, in that deal, teamed up with The Rock in order to kind of like encourage recruitment. And what's funny about this is that the Army basically says that The Rock and the UFL deal didn't lead to a single new recruit. And so that $11 million was like completely wasted. And in fact, they claim that 38 recruits actually ended up delisting in the end. So like they were getting ready to sign up, and then they were like, oh, you're doing this deal with The Rock, we're not interested. And they specifically cite in this article that The Rock's endorsement of Joe Biden is the number one reason why young men aren't, responding to like his endorsement of the U.S. Army. But in addition to that, they also have like the U.S. Army commercials with like the two moms. It's like, oh, we're so proud of our child signing up to be part of the Army and stuff like that. And so like the military under this administration has like a big image problem. Like recruitment's at an all-time low. Like they're having a really hard time getting people to like want to join the armed forces. So Brian, I know that you were in the Navy.
No, I was in the Army. My brother's in the Navy.
Okay. So you were in the Army. What's your take on this story?
First off, someone needs to inform me on how it's possible to de-enlist.
That was,
I don't want to go. I changed my mind.
You can't do that. I mean, as someone who really wished that was an option, I can check about 6 months in. Once you enlist, bro, it's like a gang. The only way you getting out is bloody. It ain't happening. You can't just de-enlist. The military police, if you like, let's say you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, and you just go home, the military police will come and get
Brian,
you. It's a crime.
You just tell them that you're trans and that you're leaving, and they'll let you go.
They don't care anymore. Trans is allowed. They'll be like, okay, let's get you bottom surgery ASAP.
They get special treatment. So they'll be like, I don't want to go.
What if you have to leave to fight in the Kumite like Frank Dux?
Yeah, but you got to win how many times? How many times?
They did go after him too. The military police did go after him.
If he wins like 1,000 times, like in that movie, they're like, all right, you good.
Dude, I was late to SRP one time. Okay. Well, SRP is like where you go before you ship out for mission, right? And I was supposed to be there on this time at this hour. And I was late because of traffic. I was pulled over by a cop. He had me sitting on the side of the road for 2 hours. Granted, I was going like 120 miles an hour, which is not allowed. And I had to convince him not to tow my car and that I was going to SRP. So I was late like 3 hours. I was late 3 hours, and they sent MPs to my house.
Yeah.
Like I showed up, and they're like, "Oh, we need to call the MPs back." I'm like, "What? Why'd you call the MPs?" They sent them to my house. They thought I went AWOL for 3 hours. So going de-enlisting, I don't believe that for a effing second. Number one. Number two, I'm sorry. People are not. You're not going to get any turnout because he endorsed Biden. No, you're not getting any turnout because you endorsed Biden. You're not getting any turnout because the way you have cultivated this culture in the Army, in the military in general, is subject to the left. It's all about the left. You don't have the good old boys anymore that are growing up saying like, I can't wait to be in the Marines. No, what they're seeing is a bunch of trans this, gay this. One of the most propped up admirals right now is literally a trans man, and he looks like a man. He looks like a man dressed as a woman. And you are promoting this depravity. Your ads are cartoons about LGBT rights, not the military. Your ads are no longer going after masculinity. You are going after the LGBT plus minus rainbow mafia. And when you do that, guess what? The people that normally signed up for the military aren't going to sign up anymore. Hello? It's not The Rock's fault. I'm glad The Rock ripped you off. You deserve to be stupefied a little bit.
There you go.
All right, Odin. In this article, they point out that the Army's risk assessment team in the marketing department basically said that The Rock's outspokenness was seen as a potential risk because of his support of Democratic candidates, particularly President Joe Biden, his open support of Black Lives Matter, and critiques of former President Donald Trump. But in addition to that, they also said nobody watches the UFL. So in any kind of sponsorship money there would just be like wasted funds. But the military top brass was so starstruck with The Rock that they just decided to give him the money anyway and get the sponsorship. So what's your take on The Rock's influence as an influencer, especially considering that it was after this that he declined to endorse Joe Biden again?
I mean, I honestly am just so amazed at the world that we live in today, because you would have thought, especially just a few years ago with the way the media is still working in this way, but I don't think you could have had back in 2020 something like this happen where you had such a open or clear backlash, I guess you could say. So I think it just shows us how much the times have changed, how many people's opinions have soured on the quote unquote current president. So it's interesting to see that happen, but yeah, it's a waste of money. And honestly, I can't really be that surprised, because it's still a government run agency and they waste our money every single day. And so can't say I'm too surprised to see that actually is happening again.
Well, Mr. Butters, what's your take on this? Do you think that what's the reason the Army's having a hard time finding new recruits?
I have no idea. I don't know. Everybody's too busy playing video games and not playing outside.
Yeah. Have you seen their ads lately? It's insane.
Oh yeah, bunch of freckle face little
bunch of little twinks running around, gay twinks with rainbow colored uniforms, talking about how they're two moms or feminists. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. What are you doing? Now, my God. Was it 90% of the military is made up by men? And your marketing is to what?
Look, man,
to the 3% of society that is never going to join?
If I was a high school kid right now and I was watching the news and they threw up that tranny that's in charge of who's the one that's in the Navy?
In Navy, he's an admiral in the Navy.
I was actually signed up for the Navy. I told you guys this. I failed my MEPS physical. But if that transvestite was in charge of the Navy when I was signing up, I would never even have given it a second thought.
100%. I wouldn't have joined the military in its current state.
No fucking way.
And Brian, the question I was going to have is, if you join, or rather, if you go to basic training, can't you quit during basic training?
No. Okay, so this is how it works. And they made a joke because I wanted to quit during basic training. When I joined, when I got to MEPS, at the time I was like 350 pounds. As a very young man, I was very large, very, very giant, rotund boy. I was a thick boy. And I joined the military when I got to MEPS. I passed most of the physical stuff until it came to weight. I was way overweight, dude. I was like way overweight. And they did something called a tape test where they wrap tape around you. And if you, you could be overweight, but if your tape still, is within a certain range, you can go. Well, the guy was like, suck it in. I'm like, he's like, suck it in more. And I'm like, I can't suck it anymore. And he literally had to pull his hands together. And he's like, okay, you passed tape. So I should never have gone to basic, because I went to basic larger than what a person can get through basic. So about 3 months in, though, I was dying. I had lost 100 pounds. I was getting fit. But I hated it. Basic was hard, right?
Yeah.
And I remember asking a sergeant at some point, I'm like, so what happens if I fail basic? Because I had already failed the running test the first time. You only have 3 times, right? He's like, oh, it's simple. You go home. I'm like, oh, yeah? He goes, no, you restart basic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so what if I don't want to do it anymore? He goes, tough shit, bro. You signed up.
You're going to go to basic for your whole entire career.
You're going to go to basic until you pass. Unless you get hurt. You can get hurt and you can medical out.
Okay.
But if you don't get hurt, you're going to go through basic until you pass basic. And when he told me that, I'm like, wait, if I don't pass this next running test, I'm going to have to restart. He goes, yep. I'm like, I'm running until I die. And I remember at last test, I was running to the point where I physically lost connection with reality. Like the world got dark, but I kept running, and I still barely passed the test. But dude, I lost like 150 pounds in like 8 months in basic and AIT. I lost a lot of weight.
So I want to ask Lamar and Joe, do you think that maybe the military is having a hard time recruiting people because we all saw how Afghanistan turned out? We're in the middle of 2 kind of proxy wars, and we got 3 or 4 new wars kind of staring us down the barrel, and everyone's just like, I don't want to fight.
Yeah, well, first of all, nothing makes me want to sign up for the Army more than The Rock. But I mean, the whole idea that celebrity endorsement is going to make people sign up for the military. Like you're going to risk your life because The Rock made a commercial. It's so stupid. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think people used to get it. There was people that were drawn to it because there was a love for the country, all that stuff. And definitely since the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, I think a lot of people started to realize, maybe we get involved in things that we shouldn't be or whatever. And so,
there ain't no WMDs over here, boss.
I definitely see that was a big turning point in the.
I joined because of 9/11. I literally joined like 3 days after 9/11. I was super patriotic. I'm like, I'm going to join the military and go fight and go to college. And I did. And I did it, but I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah, it's. I think you're also dealing with a different generation as well, too. Like, it's one of those things where I also come from a Navy, not a Navy background, but my family was in the Navy. My dad joined when he was very young. My mother joined, and my mother was like, her father told him they're either going to make you or break you. So it was one of those things where it's like you joined because it's like, all right, I'm going to try to do some crazy stuff. But then with this generation, it's kind of like, I don't know if I want to do that at this moment. And it's like, I don't know if it's going to change. Like, and then going back to The Rock, and it was the UFL. I mean, that's not a recruitment thing. Like, I mean, maybe if it was the NFL, but I don't think The Rock is going to be enough. I think it's a different mindset now.
And I don't mean to break in here, but we're talking $11 million.
Yeah,
they spend more money than that on toilet paper in a weekend in the Army. Okay, $11 million. Come on, that's nothing. That's nothing.
The only thing you could argue would be because those are people who are trying to make it to the NFL. Maybe it's like, if you don't make it to the NFL, why not sign up? That's that's literally the only thing you could possibly do. And even that's not worth $11 million.
Yeah.
You didn't make it to the NFL. Sign up to make $7 an hour and put your life at risk.
That's a great idea.
You could do a couple military.
That's a couple of military grade porta pots, man. That's not that big deal.
Well, maybe they'll have better luck next time if they try John Cena. We'll see.
Yeah.
Can't see me.
All right, guys. We had a lot to talk about today, and we talked about it real quick. I want to give a big shout out to Da Beast 808, who became a member of the Salty Nerd channel. Nice. Welcome, Da Beast. And he also helped us reach our goal by gifting 5 Salty Nerd podcast memberships. Thank you so much. We hit that 21 mark. Fantastic. And not to be outdone, we have the top super chatter, top contributor, the OG, Brian Gaston, for $100. Woo. As the great Zod, aka Terrence Stamp, once said, "Is there no one on this planet to even challenge me?" Oh, he's getting cocky. He's thrown down that gauntlet for Scotty Dub. But Brian, thank you for that $100 super chat. So generous. Guys, I want to thank my fantastic panel of nerds for being here today. Odin of the Pineapple Pizza, where can people find you? And do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, you'll never find me around a pineapple pizza. I can say that much. But you can find me over at OMB Reviews on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, and of course over on Twitter. And Monday night streams, 7:30-ish p.m. Eastern time every single week. And thanks for always having me.
All right. And Lamar and Joe, thank you guys so much for being here. Be sure to check out the Perfect Turd Podcast. Link to their YouTube channel is in the description and pinned in the chat. If you guys haven't checked them out, they make great content. I love watching their guys' stuff. Do you have any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Yeah, PerfectTurd.com. We got some interviews coming up with some B-movie royalty. So, yeah, that's it. PerfectTurd.com.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And Brian from the Popcast, any final thoughts on where can people find more of you?
No final thoughts. I'm glad I'm here. Love you guys. Love being here to talk shit about random stuff
I
on
love
the internet.
you too, man.
Good to see Lamar and Joe again, boys. Yeah, you can find me at the Popcast, and at Pop Culture Live, and on Twitter, Popcast Guys, and
Everywhere
Yeah.
else.
By the way, everyone, links to everyone's
Grinder as Klingon Warrior.
yes, links to everyone's non-grinder profiles in the description. Dutch Butters, what's
Yes,
going
sir.
on the Salty Nerd Gaming channel?
Oh, Salty Nerd Gaming channel. We're just chugging away, man. We're having a great time over there playing Helldivers still. It's like we haven't like expanded out yet into another game, but we're having a really good time. There's a big expansion coming out in a couple of days. Got new content coming out. We're live streaming like 4 or 5 days a week. Got 2 podcasts a week coming out over there. It's good stuff, and having a good time. So,
Well, lots of people are joining our Discord wondering how they get the honor of playing with the great Dutch Butters.
yeah, well, someday we'll figure it out. So the social menu in Helldivers is really borked, and it's just kind of a pain in the ass to play with people you don't know right now. But that's supposed to be getting fixed here very soon. So we're going to figure out some kind of system where people can play with me and Alex. We'll figure it out. It'll be fun. So,
Well, guys, this coming week on the Salty Nerd Podcast, we've got our review of the finale of season 2 of House of the Dragon, and we're also starting our August Bites coverage. So we're going to have a shark movie called No Way Up that we're going to be covering. So be sure to check that out, and I'm sure we're going to have lots of other stuff to do, especially for members.
sharks on the plane.
Yes, sharks on a plane underwater.
Yeah. Underwater.
These
Wanna give
motherfucking
it-
sharks on this motherfucking plane.
Yep. Want to give a big shout out to Doomed, You Suck That Dong, Joe Eager, and Brian Gaston. Thank you all so much for your support. We appreciate your super chats, and we appreciate you guys showing up in the chat today. Love you all so much. And remember, guys, every Saturday, be right here, same salty time, same salty channel. And be sure to stick around for Mephisto's movie reviews, the Real McCoy podcast. But guys, before we get out of here, I just have to say, the power of one,
Stop.
the power of two,
I hate you so
the
much.
power of all of you.
If you only knew the power of one, the power of two, the power of many.